The first time he saw her, the night air felt sharp and thin, and the street was almost empty. He was wiping down the bakery counter, watching the steam from the dish sink rise like ghosts in the window. Outside across the road, a young woman stood at the bus stop with her shoulders hunched and her hands tucked into the sleeves of a thin coat. Each time boots clicked past on the sidewalk, she flinched like sound itself could bruise her. He noticed how she kept her back near the glass of the shelter, as if walls made the world simpler. He rinsed a mug, dried it, and told himself to mind his own work. But when he filled the kettle and heard the soft rattle as it warmed, something in him decided. He poured chamomile tea into a paper cup and stepped outside. He did not walk straight toward her. He angled to the bench, set the cup down a good distance away, and took 2 steps back. The cold slid under his collar. "It's warm," he said, voice even, like he was talking to a skittish bird. "You don't have to take it. I'll leave it there." He pointed to the bench, made a small open palm gesture to show he was done, and returned to the bakery without turning it into a moment. Through the glass, he watched her eyes move. She looked at the cup, then the door he had gone through, then the cup again. After a long time, she inched forward, lifted the lid, and held the steam under her chin. She did not drink yet. She simply felt the warmth, like a person letting a little sun touch their face after a long winter. His name was Daniel. At night, he worked the late shift. When the radio played soft songs and the oven sighed, he had the sort of patience that comes from caring for people who need time. A sister who hated crowded rooms. A grandmother who spoke slowly and liked soft voices. He had learned to move in a way that made space instead of taking it. The next night, the woman returned to the bus stop at almost the same time. He pretended not to notice for as long as he could, then boiled the kettle and set another cup on the bench the same steady way as before. He did not speak this time. He did not look for thanks. He knew how heavy thank you can feel when you are trying to stay small. When he glanced up a minute later, the cup was closer to her hands and her shoulders had loosened just a little. On the 4th night, rain came down in narrow silver wires. The woman stood half under the shelter, half in the wet, the way people do when they are not sure if they are allowed to take comfort. Daniel dried his hands, folded a paper bag, and placed a still warm roll inside. He opened the bakery door, kept 1 foot on the threshold, and set the bag on a small table just inside. "Fresh bread," he said, keeping his tone simple and light. "If you like this kind, take it. If you don't, that's okay too." He pushed the bag forward with 2 fingers and went back to the counter. After a minute, the bell chimed softly as the door eased open again. A hand reached in, quick and careful, and the bag disappeared. He smiled without showing teeth and turned the radio a little lower, as if quiet could be a gift. On the 5th night, she stood in the doorway and pressed 2 fingers to the glass. Her voice was barely more than breath. "Thank you." He nodded and kept his hands where she could see them. "You're welcome," he said, not asking for more, not making a scene. When she came inside for the first time, the bakery was nearly empty. A couple shared a slice of cake near the front, and an old man read a newspaper by the window. The woman paused just beyond the door. She did not step further. She scanned the room, the corners, the counter, the exits. Her eyes landed on a booth near the back where a person could sit facing everything. He noticed the direction of her gaze. "Would you like that table?" he asked. And when she nodded, he did not walk beside her. He went ahead at an easy pace, placing the menu down and moving the chair a little so that the back did not scrape the wall. Metal on tile can be like thunder when a person is tense. "Tea?" he said. "Same as before?" She nodded again. Her hands did not leave her sleeves. He set the cup down on the far edge of the table so she could draw it close in her own time. He did not brush her fingers, did not let the saucer clink, did not reach for the napkin once it slid crooked. He let the small things be small, because sometimes that is how big things begin. "Do you work here every night?" she asked after a few sips. Her voice was stronger now, just slightly. "Most nights," he said. "I'm Daniel." She looked at the steam as she spoke her name, like the air might catch it if she met anyone's eye. "I'm Lila." The bell over the door rang louder than usual when a delivery guy pushed in a step too fast. Her shoulders tensed. Daniel kept his body relaxed and shifted a half step so that from her seat, the sudden movement was no longer behind her but in front of him. He had learned how to be a buffer without being a wall. The delivery guy left. The bell quieted. Lila's breath evened. "Is the tea too sweet?" he asked after a while. She shook her head. "It's good." He moved away and adjusted the radio to a song with soft guitar. He scrubbed a clean counter because it gave her choices without eyes on her. When she lifted the roll from a small plate and tore it open, steam rose again. The smell of butter and cinnamon made something in the room unclench. The week unspooled like this. A cup at 9, a booth that faced the door, a simple question asked slowly, and room for silence that did not feel empty. On the 7th night, the rain returned and the lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. Lila's knuckles went white around her cup. Daniel did not say it is fine, because the body does not always believe that. Instead, he named what he would do. "I'm going to the back office for a moment," he said gently. "I'll bring a small blanket. I'll put it on the chair across from you. You can use it if you want." He did exactly that. The blanket was soft fleece, washed so many times it had no new smell. He placed it on the opposite chair and walked away, his footsteps quiet. A long minute passed. Another. Lila slid one hand out of her sleeve, reached for the edge of the blanket, and pulled it into her lap. The movement was smaller than most people would notice. Daniel noticed. He did not look too long. Some noticing should be light. Near closing that night, he turned the sign from open to closed. The tiny click of the chain made Lila jump. He lifted both hands, palms open in apology, and spoke soft. "I'm going to stack the chairs now. You can stay until I'm done. There's no rush." She nodded with a tight smile. When he finished, he walked to the door and held it for her without standing too close. The rain had thinned to a fine silver mist. "Do you want me to walk you to the corner and then stop?" he asked. "You can tell me where." They went slowly, side by side, with a full pace of space between them. Streetlights reflected in the wet road, making long gold ladders that led nowhere. At the corner, she pointed to a hairline crack in the concrete. "Here." He stopped behind it like it was a border drawn on a map. A bus slid up and hissed. The doors opened like a mouth. She took one step forward and then back again. The driver waited. She did not move. The doors closed. The bus left, a hollow sound fading. "I thought I could," she said, the words so soft they nearly broke. "You get 1,000 tries," he answered. 10,000. He said it as if it was a plain truth and not a favor. Days became their own gentle pattern. Lila worked mornings at a small motel, changing sheets and wiping mirrors. She liked rooms at the end of the hall where she could see both exits. Loud voices in the corridor made her hands shake, but the simple work soothed something in her. She saved a little cash and bought shoes that did not squeak. She began to carry a smooth river stone in her pocket to rub with her thumb when her heart raced. Daniel wrote short notes on index cards and left them under her napkin. "Breathe in, breathe out, feel your feet. Name 5 blue things. Press your palm to the table." She kept the cards in the inside pocket of her coat. One afternoon, a little boy let go of his mother's hand and ran down the bakery aisle. He brushed Lila's knee without looking. Her body turned to ice for a second, then remembered. She placed both hands flat on the wood and watched the grain until her chest calmed. The mother apologized. Lila managed a small, real smile. "It's okay." Later, she told Daniel, "I didn't float away." He nodded. "You stayed. That's a brave thing. Not every day was good. Sometimes she came in pale, with eyes that looked far away like she had spent hours walking through old weather. On those days, he said almost nothing. He kept to calm movements, named present things in a quiet voice. Warm tea, chair steady, window open, radio soft, and let her be a person in a room instead of a problem to fix. Spring settled over the town like a soft blanket. The trees along the avenue pushed out pale leaves, and the wind lost its winter bite. Lila began to notice small, gentle things. A sparrow hopping on the curb. The way the morning sun hit the bakery window and made the glass glow. The chalkboard sign Daniel drew each day with a crooked star next to the word fresh. She was still careful with space. She still chose the booth that faced the door. But something inside her had shifted. Fear was still there, but it did not sit on her chest every minute. It sat a little farther away. She made a list in her pocket notebook. She called it Small Brave Things. The first line read, "Stood on the first stair of the bus." The second line said, "Asked for honey and tea." The third line said, "Smiled at a stranger who held the door." She drew a small square box next to each line and shaded the square when she did the thing again. It was a private game, but it made her feel steadier. Daniel never asked to see the notebook. He never leaned over when she wrote in it. He treated her privacy like a promise. The library became her second safe place. The first time she walked in, the smell of paper and quiet felt like a friendly hug without arms. A librarian with silver hair and soft shoes showed her how to sign up for a card. The woman explained each step and slid the form across the desk like a delicate gift. Lila's hand shook when she wrote her name. The librarian waited without hurrying her. When she finished, they smiled at each other, two gentle people who understood that time is part of care. Lila checked out a small stack of books and hugged them to her chest like a warm loaf of bread. She told Daniel about the library while he wiped the counter. He grinned. "I like that place too," he said. "They let me sit at the big table when I was a kid and pretend I was a scientist." She laughed, a small, quick sound. It felt good to laugh without fear looking over her shoulder. A counselor at the community center helped her learn new ways to breathe. The counselor had a plant in the window that leaned toward the light. They watered it together at the start of every session. Lila liked that. It felt like she and the plant were both practicing the same lesson. Grow toward light. Take water. Be patient. She did not share many details with Daniel. She did not need to. He only said, "I'm proud of you," and meant it. Some days were still heavy. A slammed door could send her heart racing. A stranger's perfume could pull her mind somewhere she did not want to go. On those days, she used her cards. Breathe in, breathe out, feel your feet on the floor. Name 5 blue things. The sugar packet, his apron strap, the tile near the door, the sky through the window, the ink on the menu. The world came back piece by piece. Daniel learned to spot the signs without making her feel watched. He spoke to her the way a lighthouse shines, steady, calm, not loud. Warm tea right side of the table. "I'll be at the register if you need me." She would nod, and the ground would come closer. One Saturday, the town held a small spring fair. The street closed to cars. Stalls lined the sidewalk with baskets of strawberries and jars of honey and paper pinwheels that flashed in the sun. Families wandered carrying lemonade and balloons. Music floated from a speaker on the courthouse steps. Lila stood at the corner with her hands deep in her coat and studied the scene. She felt the pull to try and the pull to run. Daniel appeared beside her, not touching, just present, like a friendly tree to stand near. "We don't have to go in," he said. "We can watch from here." She kept her eyes on the open spaces. "Maybe I can walk 1 block," she said. "If you stand close. Not touching, just like a wall that is kind." "I can be your kind wall," he said. "Tell me where to stand." She placed him a step to her right so he filled the space where people brushed closest. They moved slowly along the first row of stalls. When someone bumped her shoulder, she flinched but kept walking. A gust of wind rattled a string of metal chimes and made a sound like coins in a jar. Her breath went tight. Daniel spoke softly, naming the present. "Blue tent ahead. Open space to the left. We can step to the open space," and she nodded and moved. A child ran by with a streamer and she tensed again, then breathed. She paused at a table where a woman sold tiny potted herbs. Lila touched a rosemary sprig and smiled at the scent. It smelled like dinner and sun. She told the seller she would come back another day. After 10 minutes, Lila's hands began to shake. "I'm done," she said. Daniel turned with her at once. Leaving by choice felt like a quiet win. The next week brought steady rain. The bakery windows blushed with warm light, and the glass grew soft with fog. Lila arrived late, hair damp, coat speckled with drops. "I tried to save a box of donated books," she said, laughing at herself. "Pages flew everywhere. I chased them down the sidewalk like butterflies." Her laugh surprised her again. It was not brittle. It was round and warm. He gave her a dry towel and set it on the table. She took it and pressed it to her hair. She did not apologize for the water on the floor. He did not care. The world was full of small messes that meant someone was alive and doing their best. "Can I ask for something?" she said after a while. Her voice was quiet but clear. "Always," he said. "I think I want to try a hug," she said, eyes on the steam from her cup. "A safe one, my way. If you can help me make rules. And you can say no." He set his hands flat on the counter. He took one small step back, not forward, to show he would not rush her. "We can make all the rules you need," he said. "I will not move unless you tell me. You can stop it with one word or by lifting your hand. We can start and stop as many times as you want. You don't have to explain anything. I will listen." They walked to the empty space near the window, away from noise. She placed him in a patch of light. "Stand here," she said. "Hands where I can see them." He lifted them, palms open, elbows loose. She circled him once, slow, like a swimmer testing the edge of a pool. Then she stood in front of him and reached. Her fingertips touched the fabric of his sleeve. She waited. Nothing bad happened. She put her hand on his forearm, firm enough to feel the warm weight beneath the cloth. She breathed in. She stepped closer, inch by inch, and pressed her cheek to his shoulder. Stiff at first, then less. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay," she said. He wrapped his arms around her with the care a person uses to lift a fragile heirloom, not because he thought she would break, but because she mattered. He did not pull. He did not sway. He matched his breath to hers, slow and even like counting waves. He held her like something sacred. Her back trembled. Then the tremble softened. She let more of her weight rest. He stayed steady. Time passed the way rain passes over a roof, not rushed, not forced. When she stepped back, her eyes were wet and bright. "I thought I would disappear," she said, half laugh, half cry. "I didn't, I was still here." "You were here the whole time," he said. She found a napkin and wrote the date with a small star. She tucked it into her pocket notebook under small brave things and drew the darkest shade she had ever drawn inside the square. Later that night, she left a tiny sprig of rosemary on the counter as a thank you, as if to say, "Let's grow what smells like home." After that, life did not turn into a straight line. It turned into a living path. Some days she could ride the bus 2 stops and feel fine. Other days the bus doors breathed their soft breath and her body chose no, not yet. She listened to her body. Daniel did too. He did not give speeches. He did not point to the calendar and say, "You should be further." He kept up his steady ways, naming the present, moving without rush, treating her pace like the rightful speed. She tried the barbershop again. This time she told the barber, "Please go slow." He did. When the comb touched her forehead, she breathed and kept still. She walked out with tiny bangs, laughed at herself in the bakery window, and decided she liked them. A week later, she joined the library's small book circle. They sat in a sunlit room with 5 chairs and a soft rug. She chose the chair where she could see the door and the big window. When it was her turn to talk, she said 3 sentences about why she liked the story. Her hands shook, but her voice held. When she left, the librarian squeezed her shoulder lightly. Layla nodded to herself. That had been okay. She had been the one to choose. At the motel, she began helping an elderly guest with groceries on Tuesdays, walking her slowly up the stairs. The stair-cat captain came closer every week. One evening, he let her scratch under his chin for half a second before darting back into the shadows. She laughed and marked it in her notebook with a tiny paw print. "Small brave thing, cat trust."